Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Singh, and in this video we shall discuss the feature news for today, that is carbon pricing policy around the whole world. What are the issues with it? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? With understanding the important news of the day, that is Pennsylvania, one of the states in America, has become the first state to adopt a carbon pricing policy. Now, looking at what is happening in America and getting the context from there, if you look in to this image provides for the pricing of petrol and gases. This image provides the pricing of petrol and this one provides that of gases. In the developed world, if you see, the developed countries price the petroleum or these articles which produce global warming gases, greenhouse gases. But there's a differential rate of taxation. If you see the bars in blue, indicate the taxation levels, and the bars in red are the effective price. Now, we would understand what is happening in developed countries, which are of two different kinds, and developing countries as well. When you look at the developed countries in Europe, for example, Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, etc., the pricing is placed such that there are huge taxations on incurring any kind of expenses of fuel that are global warming in nature, that are releasing greenhouse gases. So this is the level of taxation. Almost half is the taxation. And when you look at the country like USA, the taxation is very less. The small blue bar indicates the taxation level, and this is the end price of the of petrol here in USA. Now, when this is the price, there is incentive to go to other place with the help of vehicles, but this is a cost. But there is a cost in this. There is a hell cost of traveling 10 hours away from us. There is also cost in multiple ways. For example, environmental cost, social cost, the cost of increased greenhouse gases presence in the atmosphere, the islands getting submerged, the crop failure, what happened to wheat in India and happening all around the world because of climate change. There is cost of pollution as well. So the European countries charge a huge amount of tax for preventing this kind of usage, carbon tax. Similarly, you see in countries like America, and another one is Canada, they do not do it. They in a way promote, and that's possibly the reason you see countries like China, India, USA, they happen to be amongst the biggest emitters. Not possibly this reason, these are industrial states, that's why. So China on top, 28% of emissions, America at the second, and India at the third level, along with all the European countries together at around 7% of emission. China 28%, America 14%, and India 7%, half of the emissions. Now, this is the situation in America, not only for petrol, but also for not only for gases, but petrol as well. So when you see the effective rates of the price of petrol, America is placed somewhere here 0.76, and when you see a country like India, or little more than that, but when you see the European countries, Switzerland, France, Germany, Portugal, Denmark, Italy, Netherlands, they are all the places where the price of petrol is again and gases again is expensive. Now, this is where you can segregate the developed countries in two parts, the ones which are charging tax and the ones which are not charging tax. And on the other hand, you can also look at a developing country like India. So developed countries on two fragments, one are European countries or European type countries, one is America type countries, which do not charge these kind of entities, right? The polluting, the dirty entities. But European Union and other countries around, they charge and they serve people through these kind of charges. The cesses, the charges, taxation, this get back to people in the form of health benefits and welfare schemes. On the other hand, USA does not do it, and there's another kind of country where India falls. This is where we charge not to be able to deliver these kind of benefits to people, health benefits and mitigating the climate change impacts, but to be able to raise the public exchequer fund. So we charge as much as, in a way, that we generate almost 20% of government's revenue out of taxation of petroleum products. So this is the situation around the whole world. But then one must look at the situation, the gravity of situation. This is the situation. Tornadoes, flood, fires, typhoon, tsunami, landslides, drought. Just leave apart earthquake amongst natural disasters, but rest all the others are directly or indirectly related to the increase in the presence of global warming gases, greenhouse gases. And this is where the whole world has now come to a stage where it is pledging to initiate taxation on fuel, more taxation on fuel. Where you see this news, Pennsylvania has become a first state in USA to start having the carbon pricing mechanism. So anybody using carbon, there will be ways in which it will be charged excessive, taking into account various factors. What are these factors? The factors which would be taken into account could be damage to crop, health, the damage to health, islands which are getting submerged, loss of property from flooding and sea level rise. All this will be taken into account. Along with that, if this is done, what does it aid? It aids in multiple ways. For example, it gives signals to those people who are emitting more. Start emitting less. Start using green technology. And if this is the first signal to the emitter, then the second signal is also to the person who is into green technology or who are investing in green technology. So there will be promotion of the green technology. Research and development will start getting fostered, and it will get promoted in the greener technology. And this is under a mandate of Paris Climate Agreement. This is mandate of many other agreements which want more investment in the green technology, carbon pricing mechanisms for clean development, mechanisms in which carbon offsetting can happen. So now states and countries have started to implement this. See, this is how it has grown. It went ahead with United Nations speaking about it. And then those corporates which have more social responsibility, which are fostering, which are doing well, and which are making profit, those initiated this at their own level. So you would see high-end corporates starting to purchase the battery vehicles just because they care for environment, just because they have finances and they care for environment. They have finances, that is important. And now we see countries also adopting. So country which has this corporate house who has started to adopt, or states have started to adopt. So corporate social responsibility, NTPC, ONGC, Indian Oil, all of them have started to contribute to measures in which they can contribute to lesser greenhouse gases, global warming, and they have started to contribute to greener projects. This is what Pennsylvania state also is intending to do, and this is an indication for international carbon market. The whole market around the whole world needs to change. Now there are important things that you should understand. There are some challenges to this initiative. One is the shift for intensive sectors. Iron industry, aluminium industry. The industry is related to smelting, industries that need power generation. Now we very well know, we have discussed this multiple times, that India is one country which utilizes coal for majority of electricity generation. This is not the case in European countries, this is not the case in Bangladesh, this is not the case in other countries. We have discussed this. But then India utilizes this carbon energy to a great unit, to a great level, to be able to produce energy. So shift for intensive sectors will be very tough. In fact, government has policies to promote utility of coal in India. And when these are the policies existent and we are taxing on the other hand the carbon intensive sectors, then these are policy inconsistent ways in which we are leading ahead, right? Just like we have an inverted duty structure, we are also promoting carbon in a way, we are also not promoting in a way. Now that is where policy overlap. This is the question of policy overlap. There is also a lobby group in Australia, lobby group in India, Saudi Arabia. These are the countries which say, abhi apna consume kar lete hain pehle, then you start these kind of projects. So lobby groups always want, see, this is the national interest, no? This is the self-interest of the countries. There's no other way that these countries can go ahead, because these countries, their revenue collection, the collection of important finances to be able to fund projects, they are dependent on the natural resources. So this is the lobby group that is working. And the fourth one is data. We are not even aware of what is the level of global warming that is happening because of greenhouse gases. Yes, we are aware that they are related, but it is grossly underestimated. This has been said innumerable times by United Nations, that any country that we are speaking of, so when I spoke of 28%, 14% and 7%, yes, that data is authentic and available in all the places. This is the most credible data. However, the reality is that these figures are also underestimated, and many of the industries which are emitting, we do not even have an idea of the emissions which could be very much related. A simple example is, if a person is a part of a chemical industry, and it is also this chemical industry, creation of pharmaceutical drugs, this is also responsible for some emissions, greenhouse gas emissions for 100 units. That's good. We will calculate, and this is how carbon pricing will happen. So if the place was designated to have 50 carbon units, see, this is one international norm or India's norm as well, perform, achieve and trade, PAT scheme, according to which every heavy industry, every industrial body in institution will be given a level of emission that they must have. So if 50 units have been granted to this chemical pharmaceutical industry, if it emits more than this, then it will have to pay carbon pricing policy fees or charges that it is emitting accordingly, right? It can also get certificates in case it is emitting only 40 units. So when it gets certificates that it has 10 units saved with itself, it can also trade with the other organization, and the other organization will pay for the 10 units that this one has consumed less. So these are ways in which carbon trade, carbon pricing, carbon trade can be done. Now imagine this company having emitted 100 units in place of 50 units, 50 units more than what is required. Now they will have to pay a penalty for this. A carbon pricing will happen. So this is one thing. Along with that, imagine the people who are getting employed there, the kind of ways in which they are spending finances. All of this is generated because of the profit of this industry. Are we calculating the extension of the global warming that is created because of an organization which is in greenhouse gas emitting? Because the kind of entities which are being purchased further, this is also dependent on this industry itself, and people are neither purchasing those entities which are greener. If we are dependent on this industry, and this industry is already emitting, and its profit is also leading to emissions, that is also to be calculated, no? Right? So we are grossly underestimating a lot of entities which are being utilized in this industries. Another example is, if the components have been, capital goods have been utilized in creation of this chemical factory, if glasses have been utilized, the simple example, test tubes have been utilized, or boilers have been utilized here, and these boilers have been created with the help of any carbon intensive technology. We haven't taken that into account as a part of the carbon pricing in this company. So the prices are grossly underestimated. These are the issues. These are 4 or 5 issues, important issues. But then there is an opportunity as well. Under Paris Climate Agreement and Kyoto Protocol, we had agreements. For example, one agreement was the Clean Development Mechanism, where the countries which had the technology, they would aid those countries which did not have the technology for cleaner production, and this would give certifications to the developed nation which has provided aid, and they will be able to generate some level of pollution in their country because of this. These helping of the developing nations. Perform Achieve Trade scheme is a scheme for Indian industries, and government has also initiated a coal cess. So you start to consume coal, there will be some amount of coal cess which the government will get, so there will be discouragement of coal. But see, this is under policy overlap. On one hand, government is promoting coal usage. On the other hand, it is also putting coal cess. Renewable purchase obligations. Many industries in the country have already been given renewable purchase obligations. It is a necessity for them to purchase renewable energy, solar, wind, or any other renewable capacity energy, and this is a mandate. And they will be able to get renewable energy certificates with this. So remember these words, these keywords become important whenever you look forward to answer writing. So these are the ways in which carbon pricing has worked in India. Now, if carbon pricing is done, it will generate revenue. It will have co-benefits for everybody, for people, direct benefits, indirect benefits. In fact, it can also mitigate the cost of the disaster as much by 30%. Cost of the disaster. Just a few days back, I was speaking that the cost of these disasters is around 1.6 trillion. 1.6 trillion. 1.6 trillion. This can be reduced by 30% in case we start pricing these carbon entities. Who says? World Bank says this. It will have more innovations. We will also be able to somehow follow the pathway in which we maintain the 2 degree, 1.5 degree norms, possibly distant future. So these are the important benefits that we look towards while we look at carbon pricing. All right. So what are the instruments? First of all, if you remember, we have been discussing about Europe trying to tax carbon, and those kind of entities which have been produced with the help of carbon intensive technology throughout the whole world. So this is a non-tariff barrier which Europe looks forward to putting carbon tax. That's what is called as carbon tax. All right. This is one. The second is emission trading system. Now all of them are related to each other. So emission trading system, if you have emitted more and more than designated what is designated to you, then you better trade it and give some finances, get the renewable energy certificate for yourself, right? Carbon credit mechanism, every organization will receive credit for the kind of carbon it is emitting and the levels of emission. If it is lesser than required, they can further get into trade of these entities, right? Internal carbon pricing, this can happen at international levels, this can happen at national levels and subnational levels, all of the levels, right? So this is how we can do this. So this is the fourth, internal mechanisms and result based climate finance. That means in case the entity, government entity, private entity is consuming lesser carbon than required, then we will provide them further funding so that they can have greener technology with themselves. If they are providing results having lesser lesser carbon emissions, then further funds will be provided. These are the ways in which one can have ways to tax carbon, reduce emissions and have greener earth. So so there is a 6-pronged strategy which is called as FASTER. Yes, FASTER is the scheme of carbon principles which have been developed for carbon pricing. FASTER comes in this word itself. Fairness, F, alignment of policies, FAS, stability and predictability of these policies, ST, T is transparency, efficiency and reliability. So these are the 6 principles according to which the idea of European Union, OECD countries is that they would impose the carbon taxation around them. So fairness, having polluters pay principle. Polluters will be highlighted through fairness and they must be paying. Alignment of policy and objectives. So dual policy of promoting and not promoting should not exist. Stability and predictability, so that funding for future is certain, so that investors know where the government is leading. There must be transparency in pricing and efficiency and cost effectiveness in the whole process, and reliability and environmental integrity. So this has been the mandate of the OECD countries, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, most of them being European countries, but South Korea also being a part of this group. All right. Kriti says EU had released Fit for 55. Yes, very good. Very, very, very good. So by 2030, 55% emission reduction. Great. Great. See, this is where you would see the example of a country like Norway. So these countries, some of the developed countries, they have had polluters pay principle. And if I'm using carbon, coal, so there'd be huge price. But then people would shift to another ways of paying another way of consuming. For example, they would be using petrol more than coal, but then in any case they are consuming. So this is what is the way in which government is aiding the process. Now slowly and steadily, 10 years down the line, just like we did not imagine that education can be through this distant mode, we'll have to start looking at other innovations as well. For example, battery operated vehicles, for example, innovations in metaverse concept. So these are the things that you can envisage, that you can envision for what is there for us in the times to come. 10 years down the line, it will be completely different. Paris Agreement includes provisions that would allow countries to cooperate to achieve their nationally determined contributions, specifically through carbon pricing to meet mitigation commitments. See? So right now, these commitments do not have penalty at all in them, right? It is binding, but then what is the penalty? Not declared. So we are not bound right now, but the national governments have given their own targets. 2070 net neutral, carbon neutral. Net zero by 2050, European countries. China by 2060. So great. Carbon prices now exist in 46 countries, covering 22% of carbon pollution that is released every year. But tell me this, are we actually spending that amount that we have gained for relief of the people who are getting impacted? We are not. So this is an ethical question again here in this particular issue. If 4 to 6 lakh rupees getting collected by the central and state governments for carbon taxation, are we spending that amount for helping people who are impacted because of climate change? No. No, we are doing it for food distribution. So impacting, yes, it is getting impacted through natural cycles, processes, and the same people, agriculturalists, are getting impacted. Absolutely. So give us universal basic income, not in the name of food security, but in the name of universal basic income. This is being, see, unemployment allowances is being given throughout the whole world, developed countries. It is being done in European countries. Greece does this, Italy does this, USA does this. You get employed, you will have $2,200 or something for yourself. This is in USA. All right. Okay. So I've picked it up right from here. Explain carbon tax, emission trading system, credit mechanism, result-based climate finance, internal carbon pricing policy, and then the faster principles. What are the issues? Issues are inconsistent work by the government, policy overlap, ineffective use of revenues. We got the revenues, we are not using them for changing the policies of the government, we are using them for other programs, social initiatives, political challenges like lobbying groups. The carbon cost calculation we do not know, and there is still a demand. Oh yes, have a look. Demand inelasticity. So the demand does exist. Even if the carbon producing activity is made costly, most of the time the emissions keep on increasing due to demand elasticity, because there is a demand in the economy. In Norway, which has one of the highest carbon prices in the world, emissions in the oil sector rose by 78%. Emissions in the oil sector, they rose even when they have been priced very high because of demand inelasticity. India has PAT schemes, coal cess, renewable purchase obligations and certificates, and internal carbon pricing in private sector. Okay. Question: what is carbon pricing and its various mechanisms? Discuss the steps taken by India in this direction. We have covered one feature news, complete feature news on clean development mechanism. I would urge you to look at that feature news. Just type down in the comment section, then not in the comment section, but in the search bar on YouTube, and with Edukemy you will be able to find clean development mechanism. I have explained the other ways also in which carbon pricing happens around the whole world, joint implementation, lot of things. So what did we cover in today's discussion is about carbon pricing. We understood what is the international scenario, how the world is treating emissions, and are they charging them or not, and what is the basis on which they are charging, what is the intent. So when we look at this carbon pricing around the whole world international scenario, India does charge, but in different ways for different specific reasons. Developed countries do charge, two kinds of countries, we covered that. Along with that, we understood what are the impacts on health because of increasing greenhouse gases, so natural disasters and health effect, social effect, cost on environment. So complete social, economic, environmental cost is very high. And we also understood that there are ways in which carbon pricing can work. Carbon pricing can work in multiple ways. Paris Climate and Kyoto Protocol have provided for many of them: clean development mechanism, carbon pricing, carbon tax, carbon cess. Many of them have been included. We have covered them. We also understood what are the issues related to it. How are there overlapping policies? There are bodies which are opposing this, right? The mandate of the government, but the advantages are far too many. The advantages of adopting a policy are having the polluters pay, having the investors know where to invest, having to have a green development of technologies throughout the whole world, right? So examples are there with you people, and we've understood all the aspects of carbon pricing. This is how we cover the feature news of today. And if there are questions, please put them down in the comment section. And if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments, and shares. All right. So this is what is the feature news for today. Thank you for participating, everybody. Questions, most welcome. Put it down in the comment section, and we will ensure to get back to you. Please ensure that you keep watching the editorial discussions that are provided separately in our YouTube page. Very important and relevant. All right. So, and international issues, domestic issues, if you find any problems, just put it down in the comment section and we will ensure to get back. Thank you for participation, all of you, and spend 5 minutes to be able to jot down what is important. Amlan, Babani, Preeti, good night everybody. Ashish, good night to you. Thank you.